KNC Masterpiece back here on 105 through the Fan right now, brought to you by our North Texas Ford dealers. Ford, built for Texas, built for you. It is the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin, Corey, Mike. It's good to be on with you guys.
So we always love having you. I know that there weren't any Cowboys trades made on Tuesday. We are curious, did you make any interesting phone calls, get any interesting phone calls on trade deadline day?
We did, and but I wouldn't extend past the first two or three fingers on your hand, but we did, and just as it would turn out, it just didn't work. We actually got into the weeds on two or three of them and worked at it a little bit, but saw that it wasn't going to work. They were more in the nature of the future, not so much as it would relate to what we're doing the next 8 games here, and then as we look beyond that. So they were a little long-term.
That's
about all I'd want to say about it. We can't in any way visit about who the players were or the teams were, and I know when you neuter it like that, we're just making noise almost, but still, you can't do that in light of the sensitivity with players and teams.
Fair enough. If I can push my luck just a little bit, would they be sending away or bringing players in?
We were looking at actually 2 were away, 1 was in.
Can I just add a little bit more on that? Are the value of draft picks more important to you looking ahead then?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. There's very likely, as we look at the lay of the land and go look forward. Now, the trading deadline's gone, but you've got people that are looking at cap considerations now, knowing the cap is going to be lower next year.
Boy, well, Jerry, looking at what has happened this week in the NFL with coronavirus and kind of the spike that is happening a little bit in our country right now, how many meetings right now are the NFL having on kind of what could happen or what to do if kind of there is somewhat of an outbreak? We are just being more diligent. The word is that. Okay, let's be more cautious. Let's be more careful. Less exposure, more face coverings, less not carelessness, but let's have more of a focus. That's why you're seeing these big fines. That's why you're seeing the emphasis on however good we think we're doing, let's get better. The facts are that there's a general way to look at protocol and behavior in our overall country. But then if you really want to try to keep from getting COVID, then there is a really get-in-the-weeds attitude that you've got to have. And you've got to put your hand up and not have people come near you. Or you just got to act like you're trying not to get it. Now, I know that sounds trite, yeah.
But candidly, we are not seeing in any way anybody get real sick. Now, obviously, I'm going from my information. We're not seeing anybody get sick in the NFL. But what we are seeing is disruption to keep people from potentially being sick. That's real, and we've got to realize that that hurts us all when we limit these teams and limit the players on the team. So everybody's got to get their mind right and get their actions right as well. And that's what you're seeing, and it's working.
Yeah. Jerry, you have the beautiful Omni Hotel right next to the practice facility. Would there ever be a time where you would say, you know what's best is I know you guys love your families and a little bit of your freedom, but to finish out this season, let's just all live at the Omni Frisco so that there is, somewhat you're not doing the bubble like the NBA or hockey did, but you are creating a place where your players aren't really being exposed to the public.
We practice that actually is in effect and has a semblance to what you just described right now. We don't have but about 15, 20% of our players that are married and that have families. And so we do have real good, let's say, participation in working in and around and using the proximity of the hotel to a safety protocol.
Wow, fascinating. So we were curious, with the quarterback situation. I mean, if you want to tell us the starter, that's great. But more importantly, what is it about being in the NFL, being on rosters, that makes such a difference in terms of Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush and making them more veteran presences than Ben DiNucci, seeing as how they haven't really thrown a bunch of passes in NFL games?
Well, I think you really nailed it. It is, if you really look at DiNucci, he hasn't taken very many snaps away from James Madison. We didn't have training camp. We didn't have, obviously, preseason. So he's very limited on snaps. Well, anybody can tell you that just the type athletes you're playing. You hear the speed of the game, but boy, it's real. You just you step out if you're playing at the college level and you try to get the corner. That corner just is impossible. It's just not there in pro football. You've got too good athletes, too fast, too big, too disciplined. So you've got to. I was reminded the other day, Tony Romo was here 3 going on 4 years before he had his first snap, and the snap, I'm smiling when I say it. I just can't believe that it happened to Tony. But his first snap, he tried to throw the ball. And the guys hit his hand or his arm. It went straight up in the air and came back down. I've forgotten if it was intercepted or he caught it. But that's what you get, and that's after years and years of working against snaps, preseason games, snaps in games, and also working against our defense, driving our defense crazy for 3 years. Well, DiNucci had none of that.
Jerry, then is it also kind of difficult to evaluate for you and the coaching staff your quarterback play, and then kind of looking at the rest of how the offensive line is structured and all that too? Does it make it difficult to evaluate what's going on there?
Well, the point is, can you evaluate? Yes. Do you evaluate better? Do they look better behind a real seasoned? Of course they do. They look better. They're able to have better protection. They can. Things are calmer. All of that is it can be a jailbreak in there, and when it's there, that's going to limit some potential that you might have seen in a different set of circumstances. Yeah, that's very obvious. I'm just saying it becomes very obvious his lack of supporting cast.
Jerry Jones joining us on the KNC Masterpiece on 105 through the Fan. There's a lot of history between the Cowboys and the Steelers, and I wanted to kind of get your thought on where the Steelers rank in your Cowboys rivalry in the history of it, but not just the on-field product, but how they're run as an organization too.
Well, Dan, of course, was a mentor. He was the late Dan Rooney, and they had a great family legacy with his dad. And, of course, Dan did nothing. He had 4 other brothers, but Dan was the one that grew up as the ball boy and spent a lot of time doing there. And Dan was a great supporter to me. And I mean, really, really encouraged me to work out, so to speak, or go for it. And I was very interested and studied Pittsburgh and studied the way they've done their coaching and the way they've handled their football team over the years. Something I've always comes to my mind the minute I think of them as a football team. And Dan's famous statement to me is, if we draft them, we play them. We do not If they draft a down the line guy, he's going to be on the field. Don't draft him if he's not on the field, because I want him out there and want him out there not 4 years later either. So they really had a philosophy of draft. If you bring them on, they play.
Boy, Jerry, when it comes to the Steelers and you look at their history, they've kind of never had to kind of get rid of or fire, whatever the word is, of a coach. How much do you look at that and go, wow, that's amazing that from Noel, and now you have Tomlin, that they've just always kind of had a person there, and until they wanted to leave, that was it.
Yeah. Again, continuity in coaching is very telling and very. It's a very important ingredient to success. When you're doing rotating coaches, that's adding to the difficulty. And obviously, I believe that in management as well. And if you start moving that around, you start moving coaching around, it's all hard to get your hands around. They have benefited. Pittsburgh has benefited from continuity as long as until Dan died. I didn't know anybody that made the call other than Dan. And relative to everything about it.
Do you anticipate both Zeke and Alden Smith being good to go for Sunday?
Yes, I do.
Awesome. And we were going to talk about this a little bit later in the show. I'm kind of curious. Major League Baseball is hoping that they can get a universal DH and kind of change that rule. Is there any rule in the NFL that you have been hoping to change, or y'all have been working to change, that you just haven't been able to get done just yet?
Gosh, did you say rules?
Yeah.
But seriously, I like what we've done in the that are impacting the special teams areas. Those are evolving into ways to create entertaining yet safe ways to do the special team. I've always had an affinity. We won our national championship in college with the nation's best special teams, and it was the difference. And we worked on it every day. We used to put broom handles behind our back without exaggeration, and we would make those blocking lanes with broom handles out there. We'd spend the first 25 minutes of every practice in special teams, and we were taught not to get those hands out, not to get those arms out. Don't hold. Kind of bounce in front of them. Don't be getting off your feet. In other words, eliminate penalties. And so I think that as we are evolving here in an effort to look at the safety, we are also maybe creating some exciting things for special teams. We're going in the right direction over there.
Jerry, how many different emotions would you say from the end of a game to the beginning of the next game in a week that you go through? Because after a loss, Mike, Kevin, and I are all miserable. Like, we're just miserable people to be around, and we just want to throw the whole game plan away. And I'm just kind of curious, as the owner, you have to experience, because you're a fan too, right?
Of course. And now I will advise everyone, as quickly as you can, look to somebody or somebodies that are having it a lot worse than you. And I would advise that on handling any human type of motion or situation. Just look real quick and be around. My wonderful sister had early health issues, so she became a physical therapist. And she said, I did that, so I was always around people that had it a lot worse than me. And so my whole point is that I think it's there. I call it mind games. It's really not. It's just, but it's getting it in perspective. Don't confuse that now with beating yourself up and try for improvement. That's critical. I've always worked for myself, period. And so if that guy, if you don't get him changed in the mirror, you're not going to change anything. And so he's got to change if you do want to go in a different direction. And so all of those things come to my mind. And I have, over the years, been able to, not just walk around in a funk, because football, there's only about 5% of it that's ever gets you on a high. The rest of it is getting your butt kicked.
Well, we appreciate having you on every single week, and obviously if y'all can find a way to beat those Steelers, we'll all roll into the bye week as happy campers.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.